All right, welcome everybody to our latest episode of Unlocking Vertex AI. And we are joined today by Mark Eichten, who's our global Google AI architect. All things Google AI these days, especially around conversational agents and customer engagement suite. And the topic for this session that we're going to go through, we're going to dive into a little bit of the end of life announcement around Nuance, what we're seeing in the market from what our customers and other companies are trying to do, how they're adapting to this, and kind of some of the solutions that are out there, especially from a Google world, of what we can bring into what options we can bring to the table. So, Mark, I'll kind of propose a question for you. We can have a conversation. But so far, we know that Nuance has been announced end of life. I think the dates keep shifting on what that really means from a support standpoint. But what have you seen so far?
Yes, absolutely. They are continuing to shift. I think as customers are looking to how they offload onto a new environment, right? So what we're also seeing is that that end of life means that they're no longer going to be getting any product enhancements, right? This is basic support. So potentially leaving customers in a not so positive situation. So the development of the recognizer and the speech suite in itself was definitely forefront at the time in the marketplace. However, now with the generative models and the NLU capabilities of conversational platforms, we're seeing one of the reasons why Microsoft made that decision to go end of life. It's really just the capabilities of the NLU and generative AI solutions out there are really the path forward from a conversational agent standpoint. And as the models that those underlying solutions evolve around continue to be enhanced, that's only going to be more so the case as we move forward.
Yeah, well, you kind of went the direction I wanted to go, because what we've seen with the way that Nuance has been used over the years, there's small deployments. People use it from a speech to text standpoint, and then we also see companies that have thousands of intents built into an IVR, and from a routing standpoint and recognition, and even self-service applications that are built in. And so while there may be time from a migration standpoint, and support may still be out there, there can be a significant level of effort to look at not just going from a like for like, let's pick up what we've been doing for the last 5-10 years, and let's do the same thing again. But the technology has changed significantly, and it changed 3 years ago, and it's really changed, I think, in the last year. There's just more capabilities keep coming out. So when you think about from a strategy standpoint of, you've got a Nuance deployment out there, you've got intents defined, but now you've got playbooks, and you've got generative AI, and you've got language models, you've got Gemini. Like, approaching that from a new strategy of what it might be like to actually build a conversational agent, and what you're seeing, how people are using it, and how you're approaching this on a daily basis.
Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have a customer that really is looking to make a decision any day now, who has, based on the original end of life dates of next year, made a plan to be live on a new system by this time next year, right? So you're seeing that time horizon of like you said, we've got customers that have 1,000 intents built out in NLU static grammars today, that are wanting to make that shift, and they understand and recognize the time to make that migration successful at an enterprise level. I think from a platform capability standpoint, I think a couple of the main keys are that those existing recognition systems were built on static grammars for the most part, right? Where you had to create your corpus and a large amount of data, and fine tuning went into that. And you were essentially utilizing that rigid system when developing those IVR conversations themselves. So created a lot of overhead from an administrative standpoint, and a development lifecycle standpoint of getting all your verbiage approved, going to build all that out, understanding all the underlying data that is going to be built into the grammars themselves, and then testing all of that out to ensure that the solution you're putting in place is going to be efficient, effective, successful. With you put it up, the playbooks themselves, we're seeing that we can literally build an agent within 30 minutes, albeit
Wow.
that's for demo purposes, right? Not for a production system. But we're really seeing the shift from the development standpoint, and you still need that underlying data from your enterprise standpoint, but it's more usable in the sense that you can flex a bit as you're deploying the solution. So if you have additional intents that you're seeing driven from that actual pilot user data, you're able to quickly add that into the playbook as an example, as opposed
Gotcha.
to having to go back through that entire life cycle, designing, getting verbiage approved, right? Then in essence, you're really just looking at, is this meeting the threshold of usage? Does it make sense to me as a business? Is it going to drive value in order to put it into the solution? You're able to quickly iterate and enhance those experiences.
So two things I want to dig in on that you kind of brought up. So one is more on this strategy of using a pilot to be able to build something, get it out there, get data from that. But then also on the playbook side and kind of prompting and building things, because we hear these terms thrown around a lot of deterministic versus generative approaches to conversational agents now. And so kind of goes back to this theme of not just going like from like and just picking up a bunch of intents and having a bunch of deterministic flows. It seems like the demand right now is everyone's looking for the most human-like voice on the front end. They want it to be able to understand anything anybody says, have an answer for it, know where to go, whether it's a routing scheme or if it's a pushing someone into a self-service flow. But then, so I'd love for you to just kind of touch on a little bit of leveraging generative versus deterministic and some of the kind of the build strategy or design strategy, but then also kind of this rollout approach of, do you start small or do you try and go really, really big up front and then just tune over time? Like I'd love to get your thoughts there.
Sure. So there are multiple approaches that can be taken. What we're seeing today with our customers is we're really wanting to drive towards that pilot phase and utilize what we call a hybrid agent. So we have some deterministic, especially if we have an enterprise that is highly regulated, has a lot of compliance items where we know we have static information that we have to relay back to the user as a component of the conversation. And then the other part is mainly FAQ based or data based, where we're ingesting enterprise content to be able to drive those question and answers as a first step from a generative standpoint. That's where we see enterprises and organizations being comfortable with the generative abilities of understanding that there's low risk, right, for them to be able to do that. And then once they gain that confidence abilities into those playbooks, I see the pilot as a good approach, because in most cases we have traditional solutions that are in place that are tree structured, very deterministic, and you in the past really didn't have conversational systems. You have systems that are trying to elicit single or short phrases in order to drive the conversation. So it's a paradigm shift from a user standpoint, in that now we open these up so they're more conversational and the user is able to respond however they want. So while we can bootstrap potentially with some live agent data, it's not, we still have a gap between those tree systems and the live agent conversation. So that's where that pilot data comes in, and you're able to utilize that data to continue to refine your solution and give you the best approach really to provide accuracy in the conversation itself.
Okay. So from a data standpoint, you're getting, I mean, I think with a new version of conversational agents, and we talk about this a lot, just AI in general, there's a lot more data that's flowing through both the contact center that you're able to capture, that you got visibility into. I want to go a little bit further on the tuning side, because I think there's this general thought out there that, hey, I'm going to go build an agent. I'm going to build my prompts. I've got my tools set up. It's out there. It's answering questions. The accuracy may be good, it may not great, but who knows? But kind of the approach around using that data to go back and tune, and like, what are we actually tuning? All right, like, are we building intents in there? Is it really we're looking for question and answer pairs at this point, or is it optimizing, kind of making sure the virtual agent, conversational agents, actually getting people to the right place? I'm just kind of curious what we're doing on that side.
Sure. So I think with the use of AI, that really unlocked some additional viewpoints outside of the contact center at an enterprise level into what is our holistic view of our customer journey, and how do those touch points change behavior, influence behavior, maybe influence a purchase or of an item, an upsell of an item, or just a resolution of their customer service inquiry. And that viewpoint is able to, in turn, drive additional capabilities in the solution. So we're not focused solely anymore on just basic self-service needs at an enterprise level. We're taking all of that data and looking at how is it impacting my overall customer journey, and utilizing that those capabilities of a generative system. In addition to that, we're also looking and utilizing more enterprise level data. Maybe it's at the base level, it's your website, right? All of the content that's on your website that was previously inaccessible to an IVR system without a huge amount of work, we're able to easily ingest and utilize that from a knowledge standpoint. In addition to that, we can take and utilize LLM capabilities to ingest further account-specific CRM type of specific information to help drive the customer interactions that we were previously unable to do. And it's working with the organizations to ensure that the data that they have is ready for AI consumption as opposed to just human consumption, which it was historically just for human consumption, right? If you think about an HTML page, right, it's built out so that a user is able to navigate it, not to be utilized as a knowledge component in an AI solution.
Okay, so I guess last thing for you, because you touched on it from a data standpoint, and this is definitely a theme we're seeing across a lot of analysts and just in the market, this idea of having your data AI ready. You kind of mentioned about a website from an HTML standpoint, but so go from like website, you got knowledge content that exists that human agents have been using in the past. You have a structure sometimes to that. Sometimes it's a SOP document that's 50 pages long that somebody has to read through tables and everything else. But from a recommendation, I guess, or a strategy of what does it really mean to have data ready for AI, and what does that kind of look like?
Sure. So really depends on what you're wanting to do with that data, right?
Sure.
But I think in terms of a conversational system, let's just take the knowledge component as an example. It's ensuring that you have the data structures in that content, whether it be HTML, PDFs, CSV files, and we're able to curate that so that we can ingest it and utilize it as context for an underlying model. As well as we really want to look at across all of those data sources that we're utilizing, do we have disambiguous information, right?
Sure.
One place a fee is $0, another place the fee is $250, right? Which one is right? So we work with organizations from a data governance standpoint to look at what does that workflow process look like as to how is that data created in the first place?
Yeah.
And how do we go about rectifying those situations where we have ambiguity between two different data sources, and go ahead and clean that up so that we know we've got accurate data and we can utilize that from a conversational standpoint.
That's perfect. Okay. Mark, I can't tell you thank you enough for spending a little bit of time with me, help us get a little insight into what's going on, both from a Nuance standpoint, but I think also just in general, how to approach building these front-end customer-facing agents. That seems to be the direction just about everybody's going these days, and kind of the general strategy of where to start, where to go, how to update, enhance over time. I think the data piece of it is definitely, it warrants a deeper conversation. I think that's a whole strategy into itself. So thank you again. Appreciate everybody joining us for a quick conversation on our Unlocking Vertex AI. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Absolutely. Thank you all.